Hey there, this is Joe List, and you're watching Comedy Matters TV with the one and only Jeffrey Gurian.
Hey everybody, it's Jeffrey Gurian here for Comedy Matters TV, and I'm here with my old friend Joe List, who is the star of Louis C.K.'s new film, The 4th of July. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good. Well, it's very exciting. It's very exciting for me. I can only imagine how exciting it must be for you. In your wildest dreams, could you ever imagine that you'd be starring in a movie?
No, I mean, I guess in my dreams, yeah, definitely, definitely in my dreams, but I didn't expect it to happen in real life, and it's been really fun. It's crazy walking by the theater and seeing a poster with my stupid face on it.
It's got to be so wild. I mean, tell me about how it came about. Your friendship with Louis C.K. I didn't realize you guys were that close. That's really very special.
Yeah, so I've been friends with Louis for a while. I mean, he took me on tour with him in 2016, 2017, which was a big international tour. And I ended up doing almost every date on that tour, all the dates that I was available. And we started hanging out then and became pretty close then.
Well, how did you
Um,
originally at the Comedy Cellar? Did he see you there and like your comedy? Is that how it came about?
yeah, I met him at the Cellar. It's funny, I was on stage there, yeah, late 2015, and he was like in the hall. I didn't know he was there, which is good because I probably would have been nervous or, weird or whatever. But
Yeah.
he was sitting on the steps, and I had a great set. I had one of the best sets I had had in a while. And then when I came off stage, I realized he was waiting to go next, and he was like, "That was hilarious." And he knows comedy. He keeps in contact with what's going on. So he had actually knew me and knew about my podcast with Norman, Tuesdays with Stories. And so he was like, "Yeah, you're that guy." And I said, "Yeah." And then I said, "Yeah, I'm from Boston too." We started talking that way, and then he had me open for him out in Long Island, way out in like the Hamptons or out near the Hamptons. And we did a couple shows together out there, and then so I kind of knew him a little bit. And then when he started his tour in 2016, started in Baltimore, I got an email from his agent at the time, asked me to open, and so we flew down together on his, you know, a private jet he was chartering at the time. Times were different then, and um, I just started doing all these dates, and we started talking. We had just had a lot in common, a love for film, and we both started when we were 18 in Boston, and we didn't go to college because we were comedy obsessed, and we liked a lot of the same movies and stuff. So we just kind of bonded, and it just went from there.
It's truly amazing the synchronicity of events because if he hadn't been next online at the Cellar, he might not have seen that set. You know, everything has to happen exactly at the right time. You know, that you just happen to have this amazing set. You know, Norman told me a story about that once. Mark Norman, when Amy Schumer came in to Gotham, and he said he was actually bombing, but she walked in when he had one good joke, and and she came over to him afterwards, and she said, "Have you ever done Hofstra?" And he thought it was a drug, and he said he never heard of Hofstra, so he thought it was a drug, and he goes, "No, I didn't, but I'll try it if you want." And, and that's what led to him opening for Amy. And I love stories like that. I never forgot that. I don't remember what I did yesterday, but certain stories stick out in my mind. And
Sure.
I love the fact that Louis was waiting to go on while you were on stage. That's truly amazing because it never had to happen that way.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing at the time. I was very excited, and then I just thought, oh, I don't know if I'll ever hear from him, but it was cool. It was just cool to have that conversation, and yeah, it ended up working out great. And then we traveled all over the world on that tour. We went everywhere. We went to Israel, Paris, London, Scotland. It was crazy.
Just the two of you? You open you.
No, in Europe, Rachel Feinstein and Joe Mackey were on that tour also.
Oh, really? What was the name of the tour?
I don't know if it really had a tour. It was the one that culminated in the special 2017, the Netflix special, and there was no real name. He just was out running around the whole year. It was crazy. I mean, I went everywhere with him, and it was arenas too. We did the Garden, and it was unbelievable.
That's incredible. How did it feel performing to 20,000 people?
It's weird. I did 3 shows with him at the Garden, and it was fun. But the weird thing about comedy is it's still the same, whether you're in front of 20 people or 15,000 people. You just the act is the same. I can only say the jokes I have.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, I wasn't going to go out there and just be like a big crazy act. So it's different. I mean, the laughs are a lot bigger. Obviously, it's just a weird. It's just a different sound. Is all really.
The laughter, from what I understand, the laughter comes in waves. Like when there's 20,000 people, even if 5,000 people aren't laughing, 15,000 people are still laughing, you know?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And it must come in waves because I've heard from people who perform at places like that. It's got to be an incredible feeling. Um, so, oh, one of the things I'm dying to ask you, do you really play the piano? Is that you?
No, I don't play piano at all. I appreciate that it may have looked a little bit like it, but no, I don't play any piano. That was Louis' idea to make the character a piano player, and we did the best we could.
No, it was very realistic because I play the piano and I'm like, I can't believe that Joe is that good. He's like, he's not only a great comedian, but he's an incredible pianist. It's like fantastic. So
Oh, thank you.
it looked very, very, very real. And how much of the story do you relate to in your own life?
Um, a lot of it. I mean, it's very autobiographical, but my family is not nearly as wild as this family. They're not really as hostile. But I am someone that's grew up in the Boston area and moved to New York to pursue a career in the arts. Is not to compare stand-up comedy to jazz piano, but and I am someone that got sober. My family does drink a lot, and not crazy, but they drink. And I do go up to Maine every year, and we play volleyball, and so there's a lot of a lot of very autobiographical stuff. Um, and I go to therapy and have anxiety and stuff like that. I've never blown up on my family or mother like that, and the mother in the movie is almost like sociopathic. My mother's very sweet.
Is there a Nick DePaolo character in your family?
Not to that degree, but I do have an uncle who can be rough and real ball busty, and he once he did hit me in the balls, which was true, and I lost my mind and snapped. But they don't use slurs, and I mean they say fuck a lot, but they're not as homophobic, and or nor are they that conservative. They're not particularly conservative. They're kind of classic Boston Union Democrats, if that still exists.
No, it always interests me because those kind of people that are portrayed in the film, it's a type of bullying.
Hmm.
When you call someone dickweed, or you're just like you're constantly breaking balls, was the expression that you used. A lot of guys think they have to do that with each other in order to be guys, you know? And me personally, I've always rejected that. And I'll never forget. I don't know if you remember when I did You Know What, Dude? You were there that day with Bobby Kelly, who's
Oh,
also
okay.
in the movie. And no one did that to me. And Bobby said afterwards, we would never do that to you. And I was like, it was real because I didn't know what to expect. I came on, I think, when I did the book with Chris Rock about the history of the comic strip. And Bobby had me come down. And it was you and I think Dan Soder and a bunch of the regular guys who were there who usually do that with each other as a form of entertainment. But, I was Patrice O'Neal's co-host on it, The Black Phillip Show, and he and I never did that with each other either, even though a lot of comics were afraid to go up against Patrice because he would murder people.
Right.
If you said something to him and he went against you, I just don't do that kind of stuff.
Right.
What's your feeling now that you're sober? And I know that you don't mind talking about that. There's a very strong theme of sobriety in the movie, which I think is wonderful. And I want
Oh,
to
thank you.
talk about that too. But what's your feeling about guys busting balls with each other?
And it depends. Like you said, it's like some people do it and some people don't. I enjoy busting balls, but there is like this code of ethics to it. You have to be friends. I mean, to me, it's like you have to be established friends and sort of enter into that world of like, this is the relationship we have. And because sometimes people will try to bust balls and you don't really know each other. And someone, you'll have someone go say something, you're like, who are you? I don't know you. And you also has to be a respect. I mean, if someone tries busting your balls that you don't really respect as a comedian or even as a person, you're like, I'm not going to play that with you.
Exactly.
But with Bobby and Nick DePaolo, who's in the film, I mean, we just tend to talk like that a little more. So some people do it and some people don't, and I try to respect people that aren't into that because it's no fun getting your balls busted if that's not your sense of humor.
Absolutely not. And we all do self-deprecatory humor. I know that you always do. You talk about yourself. We put ourselves down. I always say, if a stranger on the street said about us what we say about ourselves, we'd hit him in the head.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but when we do it ourselves, it's okay because it
Right.
makes the audience comfortable. If you come out on stage and you're very handsome or very beautiful as a woman comedian, sometimes it's off-putting to the audience. So we tend to make fun of ourselves before anybody else does it. But it's just strange sometimes that guys feel that they can't be guys unless they do that, unless they say mean things about somebody else. And again, if it's your friend, okay. But sometimes, I mean, there's a limit as far as I'm concerned that you don't overstep that bound,
Right.
that boundary. So I was just wondering, in that whole family, everybody was doing that to each other, no matter who it was. It was amazing to me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we tried to make it that way that we tried to balance this idea of family being very fun because it is fun at times. We're on the boat or volleyball, whatever it is, and telling stories, and you have some laughs, but sometimes it just goes too far, or somebody hurts your feelings, or somebody physically hits you, and you're like, "This sucks." Because that to me is family. That's why we had that the John Hughes quote at the beginning about how you feel about your family is a complicated thing because you need them and you're drawn to them and you miss them and then sometimes you're there going, oh my god, I cannot believe I have to spend time with these people. This is horrible.
Like some of the roast battles can be very mean, and
Mhm.
I wrote the Friars Roast for 12 years. I was the main writer, and I would go up to the person being honored and I say, "Is there anything that you're sensitive about that you don't want jokes told about?" Because I never wanted the jokes to actually hurt somebody. Like when Chevy Chase was roasted, he admitted that he was very hurt by the jokes. There was some very mean-spirited humor, and he agreed to be roasted 3 times, and it was for charity. But after the third time, he just said it openly that he was very deeply hurt by the things that people said. And
Yeah.
again, that kind of stuff is bullying, and these days a lot of people are very anti-bullying. you know kids are supposed to bully each other, but you're supposed to stop that when you're about 10. you know
Right. Right.
you're supposed to outgrow that thing. Now, did you have any idea that you could be such a good actor? I mean, you're great on stage as a comic, but acting is a different thing. Did you embrace it, and did you really know that you could do that?
Oh, thanks. It's hard because thank you, and I feel like it went well. um But yeah, I did. I went to the New York Film Academy way back in 2003 and took like a 4-week acting program, but didn't do a ton of acting. But I've been in some sketches and stuff, and I really enjoy it. And I am playing a version of myself in a movie that I co-wrote, which I think made it a little bit easier. And it's so autobiographical that it made it a little bit easier to kind of get in touch with those feelings and emotions and portray that anxiety. um, so I was really happy with the way it was, but I always felt like I could act. I just haven't gotten the opportunity to. And I keep kind of joking on these Q and A's, like I think I'm good at playing a close version of myself. I don't know how well I would do in a British period piece with
Or as a ballet instructor or something like that, right?
yeah, yeah. But playing something close to myself, I felt pretty confident going in that I would be able to pull it off.
And so you co-wrote it with Louis, but who came up with the concept? Did you approach Louis and say, "I have an idea for a film," or did he say to you, "Let's do a movie together," and you just sat down and wrote? Like, what was the process like to come up with it?
Well, we had talked. I had a movie idea the year before, a couple years, the first year of COVID, that I kind of was writing on my own, and I was telling him about it, and I showed him the script. We read the script together, and he gave me notes on it, and I kind of said, we could make it here on a low budget. You could direct, and we kind of talked about it, but it kind of fizzled out, and it was more me writing it. It was a story that I had come up with, but the seed was sort of planted of like maybe we'd make a movie together because we always talk movies a lot. And then he called me one day and kind of was telling me about a movie idea he had for a while, and I just thought, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't sound like a great idea, but it got us talking about movies. And the way this movie came to be was he had an idea about playing a married couple that had been together for a while, and they look good on the surface, but there's problems. And he liked the idea of kind of exploring this married couple. He goes, but I don't know what they would be dealing with or what the plot would be. And while he was saying that, I've had this idea for a long time about, all these people my age go to therapy, and oftentimes therapists tell you to confront your parents. And I was really interested in the idea of what it looks like when an adult person tells their parents, you did a bad job and my life is a mess and it's because of you. And then they leave, and what's left of the parents? What do they say to each other? Do they go, what the hell? And
Yeah.
so that was my idea. And we kind of combined these ideas. And it was interesting because he thought the movie should be about me, the perspective of the adult coming to confront the parents. And I thought it should be about the parents. And we sort of mended those. And there's a little bit of both in the movie.
Mhm.
So that's how it started. We just started talking over the phone about the idea. And then, sorry, I got like an eyelash in my eye. I'm not getting emotional. But we just kept talking over the phone and talking and talking. Then we did a couple Zoom calls that we recorded, and then the idea just kept living and growing, and so then we just decided to write it, and we wrote it.
And what was your writing process like? Because it's hard when you write. Like I've written stuff, but I've only written solo. Did you write one scene and send it to him for his approval, or like how did you guys work together?
So we worked. It was very collaborative. We were always together. We got together, and Louis was always the one at the computer doing the typing, and I would sort of pace around. We talked it out, but before we started writing like the actual script, we talked the whole movie out of the beats of what would happen. And he has a big chalkboard at his house, and we just kind of went, okay, established Jeff's anxiety, dentist, doctor, and then we went, Jeff has a moment with Beth, and we kind of just sprayed it all out. And then we outlined it. We went through on the computer and said, okay, in this scene, this happens. In this scene, this will happen. And then when we were done with all that, then we wrote it in script form. And we just kind of talked it out. And he would stop and say, because it's so autobiographical, he would say, what would you say here? And then the sobriety stuff, of course, is something that I experienced. So I said, this is what we'd say. I'd say this, and then this guy would say that. And then all the mother dialogue just wrote. He had this idea of what that character should be. So those big monologues that's just out of Louis's brain.
That's fascinating to me. So you actually worked in the room together, because some
Yeah.
people do stuff and then they send it for the other guy to look at. It makes more sense to do it the way you guys did it, to spend time together and come up with the dialogue. How'd you choose the name Jeff?
It's funny. A lot of it. It's funny
I
because
related to it when I saw Jeff. I'm like, that's me.
it's funny because a lot of the times you get caught up on things, and we just thought we shouldn't name him Joe. It's too on the nose. I'm Joe. We can't just have it Joe. And it was really just a matter of like Jeff. It just felt close enough. One syllable, J. Easy enough. And then, of course, in the script, we just kept writing Joe over and over and over again. We had to go back and fix it because,
Change all the Joes to Jeffs. Yeah.
yeah,
Fortunately, they have that in the script writing thing. Did you use Final Cut?
we did, yeah, and just
I mean,
replace
Final Draft.
Final Draft, yeah.
Draft. Yeah. And how nice that you brought Sarah in. I mean, Sarah was great also. She played a wonderful part. And did she expect to be in it?
Thanks. Yeah, no, she was awesome. I don't know. That was always the idea to me. I just felt like there's nobody better to play her, and I think Sarah's a really great actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just felt like, yeah, we just get her easy. It just felt like the easiest casting to me.
And there were so many comedians in it. I made a list of them. Bill Scheft. And did you know Bill before, by the way?
I do know Bill. I know Bill. I had met Bill kind of outside of show business. He's a sober guy as well, so we knew each other from Sobriety. And I did Letterman years ago, and Bill was a writer there forever and a producer. And I met him before that, and I met him again there, and then I've been I talk to him all the time, more about sobriety than show business, but I just thought he would be good for that. And I'd seen him in a short film that a comedian named Dan Perlman made, and I thought he was great. And I just love Bill. I love talking to him. I love seeing him, and he's just such a sweet and funny guy that it just felt perfect. And Louis had known him from years earlier from working together on Letterman.
Did you know his wife, Adrienne?
I never knew her. I feel like I know her intimately from talking to Bill, but I never actually met Adrian.
Yeah, so I know Bill since when he first started out as a comedian, he would come out on stage smoking a cigar like
Right.
George Burns. The only comic I ever saw, and that I never forgot that. It was always with a cigar. I think I used to see him at Catch back in the 80s. And yeah, great guy. And then also Lynne Koplitz is in it, Bobby Kelly, Alan Havey,
Yep.
Liz Miele and Katie Hannigan. I guess, did you do the casting?
Yeah, we did the casting, and I did a lot of it. I mean, Louis very hands-on with a lot of stuff, and he doesn't want to be bothered with some of the other stuff. So some of those smaller parts, he just said, "You do it." And a lot of the people I just had in mind, and because the story was so close to me, Louis just was really gracious about facilitating my sort of vision. I just thought Havey would make a great dentist, and he agreed, and Havey was awesome. And then Liz Miele, New York Casting had sent some people that would be good for hygienists, and I just saw Liz, and I love Liz, and she's a friend of mine, so we said, great, get her. And Lynne Koplitz is a close friend of Louis. That was him. He just thought, I think Lynne will be great in this, and I want to give her a part. And we said, great. Um, so she was fantastic. And then Bobby and Bill, we just wrote for them. We had them in mind the whole time because we're both close friends with Bobby, and he just felt like a perfect. Bobby has such a sweet innocence and sadness, but also like a tough guy thing. So that felt perfect for a newly sober guy who is you're sponsoring. And it's always an interesting thing to me, the idea of having a sponsee who's older than you. Like you know what I mean? It's a funny juxtaposition.
And tell me about, if you don't mind talking about it, what led you to sobriety?
Well, I mean, I knew I was an alcoholic from early on. I just started drinking heavy. I started drinking a little bit late. I was almost 19 when I started drinking, but I grew up in a family that drank a lot, and I'm not saying they're alcoholics, but that was just a big part of it. And I thought I'm not going to do that. I was afraid of drinking. Then when I started, of course, immediately I just thought, wow, this is tremendous. I love it. And in comedy, it's like you're at nightclubs every night, you drink for free, and you're around a lot of heavy drinkers. And I migrated to the drinkers, but then it started to get unfun, and you get older, and the hangovers get worse, and I could just be wild. I would steal street signs and break shit and just acted crazy. And really, it was just a deep hatred of myself. I started just looking in the mirror going, what are you doing? And I thought my career was terrible, and I felt unhealthy, and my relationships were strained, and it just it just comes to that point where I got to make a change. This is horrible. I hated it, and I had a lot of things that felt like a bottom and just kept going. And that the cliche, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired after a while. And I just thought, man, I can do better than this, is what I felt. I felt like I wasn't reaching my potential.
And do you remember your first meeting, how you felt when you first went?
Yeah, it's fun. Well, I had been to meetings before and tried to get sober and gone to a few meetings when I first moved to New York. But I thought, these guys are crazy. They don't know what they're idiots. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm out of here.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I got sober this time, I started counting days on my own. I knew a lot of sober people, but I didn't go to meetings. I thought I'll do this without meetings. And I was counting days, and my wife, was my girlfriend at the time, was sober. She's got about 3 years before I did. She's about to celebrate 13 years, I think. And she gave me a copy of Living Sober, and that was helpful. And I was talking to a sober friend, and he said, "Well, that's great that you're doing that, but you really got to go to meetings, or you're not really doing it." And then I went meeting downtown, and um, I saw people that I knew that I just loved, and I thought, well, if they're here, I can come here, and it was a great feeling.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And just like doing a film like this and being the star of a movie are one of the gifts of sobriety. Those are the kind of things that happen to you when you start to think clearly. It's so interesting how our minds work and how we can fool ourselves into thinking certain things. I do a talk, it's called Don't Believe Your Thoughts, because a lot of us have thoughts that are not valid for us. And it's very interesting how your thoughts change. When you look back at what used to make sense to you years ago, and you think about it now, you're like, how could I have ever thought that? How could that
Right.
have made sense to me? And it's really, really fantastic. So the film still at the Cinema Village?
I think I should know this, but I think it just finished. I think this weekend was the final weekend for now. I think, but our distributor is always trying to get us extended. But we have Wednesday the 20th. We have a big day across America where it's playing in 70 screens across the country.
Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
it's Yeah. I think it's done in New York for now, but we'll see what happens. So it's had a little life of its own. It keeps getting picked up and added and having little encore presentations. So
Isn't that interesting how people pick up on it? Like, I enjoyed it. I was there the first night that it opened in New York, and I was just blown away. And that's why I really wanted to talk to you. I said, I'm lucky enough that I know you for a long time, and just to watch that happen, to see you starring in a film, it's just very exciting. Very,
oh, thank you.
and you did so great. The last thing I want to ask you about the ending. The ending was interesting to me. Did you choose that ending? I don't want to give it away, but you know,
Yeah, yeah. We just felt like in families like this, there shouldn't be, a big resolution of like, oh, everything's fine now, because that's just not how it works. And to me, going back to sobriety, the real theme is acceptance is the answer to all my problems.
yeah,
And it just feels like, and that's why the key moment to me is when again, I guess spoiler alert. I should say spoiler alert here.
right, yeah,
Is when Bobby resurfaces. That's what I really like about the sobriety aspect. Is Bobby, my sponsee, shows up and it reminds me to do service. And there's that moment where he says, "What's this family stuff you're going through?" And Jeff says, "It's my own shit." And that realization of it's actually me that has the problem, and it sort of switches to acceptance and service, and that things will be okay, and it is the way it is.
right, it is right, exactly.
So,
It was very satisfying. It was very
oh, thanks.
fulfilling, the whole thing. And Bobby does play the drums, by the way, right?
Yes, he does. And Bill, so that was a fun fact. That was Bill Scheff's real band. And we just had Bobby play in Bill's band, and Bill taught Bobby how to play that song. So it was sweet, and it was all connected. It was great.
It came full circle.
Exactly.
So I wish you the best of luck with this. I think it's just fantastic, and more people need to see it. So I hope it gets a national release. Hey guys, thanks for watching Comedy Matters TV. To check out some of our other videos, click on the boxes on either side of me. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Not just for me, but for my parents.